Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of Hot Dice. Today we're going to be speed painting the Tau battlesuit in the grimdark style. So as a gamer and a painter, for me it's always about striking the right balance. What I want to do is find the method that doesn't cost that much to do over an entire army, can be done quickly and efficiently, and also at the end of the day looks great up close and on the battlefield. Now it's a delicate balance because usually one of those things has got to give, but I think I've really hit the right balance here with this Tau battlesuit. So why the Tau battlesuit? Well, in the comments you guys recommended one of two things for the grimdark. That was an Eldar, which I have loads of in a box somewhere, and Tau, which I also have loads of in a box somewhere. So really, technically speaking, this is a pile of shame episode. So here's the model I put together for this episode. As you can see, I played around with the pose a little bit. The new battlesuits are actually slightly different from the old one about 5 years ago. They're a bit more opposable, a bit more dynamic, and you can see I've kind of coloured it in grey already and in the past. And I tried edge highlighting and immediately regretted it, so I stopped there. But this is going to serve as my base coat. This is just sprayed, a basic grey spray paint. It doesn't matter. It can be any grey. Games Workshop, I think this one's actually an automotive acrylic. You can also use Army Painter. There's different tones which you can play around with and actually get some blending from darker to light. But I went for grey because I want to go for that urban, gritty look. Now, it's still Tau, so they want to have this feeling of being advanced, but also used. Like, I want them to look a little bit more brutal than they are. At the end of the day, these are involved in war, so they should look the part. I started by doing a search on Google to find mechs that I liked. So ones that matched the feeling I was going for, this kind of urban, modern combat feel. So I'm going for generally camo looks. So I've already settled on grey, so grey camo is what I'm going to go for. But I want to keep this quick and simple. So if there's anything that's unclear in this episode, you can go back through my channel and you'll see tutorials on metal contrast, on doing armor, on using the AK interactive enamel washes, which I am doing so here. It's really simple and it's really cost effective to get expert looking results. So don't forget to subscribe and especially comment. I like to read everyone's input. It really helps me as a content provider to grow, to get better, and to give you what you want. So anyway, let's start. Okay, so kicking straight off with the Let Belcher. So I'm going to go on to all the metallics. No messing around, just slightly watered down and straight on. This is what makes the technique so fast. There's no blending, there's no fancy techniques. It is just going to be straight colours, and then we're going to let the pigments and the washes do all of the work for us. So making sure I get a nice thin colour on all of the metallic bits. For added realism, I wanted to make sure all the bits that move mechanically or might rub up against each other or need to be hard wearing are going to be metallic. All the bits that I think are there for armour plating are going to be the matte colour grey. And in my head I'm thinking the Tau are quite advanced, and if we think about the space shuttle for instance, it has the ceramic tiles on it, that matte coloured tile, and that's because they're good under impact stress. They are under compressive stress, they can take a lot of punishment. So I like to think that the armor plates may be some kind of ceramic that can take that force, but at the same time you need something that can take constant continuous wear like metals on joints. So I'm just putting that on where you can see that the toe joints and everything. That's really, you might not realise it consciously, but subconsciously that gives you that bit of realism. So I've added a little bit of base orange to the bits where I want to have yellow later, and now I'm just going straight in with the contrast paint. Covering all the metals first because I probably want to give them 2 layers because that's how I'm going to build up the contrast and get really make the metals pop. Don't worry if you get it on the grey, I want to cover that all anyway. That's how I'm going to build up the layers. Remember, what makes a model look good is contrast. So thinking ahead, what I've done with this model is because it's going to be quite grey, it might seem a bit drab. That's the problem with realism sometimes, it can be a bit dreary, especially it's monotone.
So with the base, I want to do something a bit special. I'm going to put some typhus corrosion in here where I want to have some rust building up. The really heavy rust is going to have a lifted, grainy texture underneath. The typhus corrosion is really going to help me with that. Like I said, just going in all the joints. I don't want to put it on the model. At the end of the day, this is a military vehicle. It would be well maintained. But I'll just put some on the feet, so that's maybe indicating there's dirt where they've landed. But that's fine. I don't want it in any of the joints or on the model itself. So in some of the footage I missed earlier, we'll just catch up. So a good thing about grey generally is it does accept a bright complementary colour. Normally yellow or lime green or an orange. It really pops with a grey. So I can actually be a bit playful with what I want to do. I'm going to go with yellow, but I think this base orange, it goes on really well. It saves a lot of time, and I just pop it on wherever I think I'm going to want to have yellow later. Remember the golden rule, I think no more than 3 colours. More than 3 colours it starts to look a bit gaudy, a little bit unrealistic. It just takes away from how good the model looks. So this is me showing you how I've put on the contrast paint. I'm not really being too careful with it. I want it to be a good covering. Pooling isn't necessarily an issue because what we're going to do is now, keeping that contrast paint on a palette, I'm going to take that base colour grey and I'm going to go 50-50. That makes it nice and watery. Gives a really good coverage as well. And I'm just going to pick out the highlighted areas. Leave the recesses. That's where all the enamel washes and pigments are going to go. This is going to give it a natural highlight. See how I'm just picking up the edges? Not being too careful with it. Remember, I'm trying to be quick here. If this is going to be army wide, I don't want to be wasting too much time. And even if I go in some of the gaps, like on this leg plate, doesn't matter, the enamel wash will pick it up. And you'll see each time just a little bit extra grey, a little bit further away from the recesses. And oh, cat, okay, never mind, reset. So a bit closer so you can see. This is watered down, the contrast paint and the grey, and I'm just introducing it. And if you can get a natural blend by just dragging it and then coming back in later, or going with the water to drag that down, watering it down. It's called feathering. It's something I do a bit more in one of my Sisters Battle tutorials where I'm spending a bit more time on the model. And I'm thinking all the time, where's the light coming from? So the trick with contrast is I want to build up lots of dark areas and then come to a very bright area, but it needs to be consistent. So the light is going to be on the front chest piece and the face. That's where I'm thinking, that's where I want the focal point of the model to be. I'm going to pick out this bottom area here just to show that there's maybe different types of ceramics being used. Especially maybe here on the leg, just to differentiate it. Because I'm probably not going to go with a camo effect because it's just going to take up too much time across an army. Maybe on a commander I would, but for now this is fine. I'm not being too careful. You can see I can always go in with the enamel wash and pick out the details. And I'm just on the lookout for little bits that could use help. I like these circular details. They're really nice. It's worth just giving them a little bit more attention, a little bit more love. Make them a lighter grey. So the contrast paint's gone onto that circular Tau symbol there. I'm going to try and pick it out here. So these, I love the way they look. I hate painting them. I always mess it up. So I'm just going in with the orange to try and pick out the detail a bit better. I've already messed that up. Just so I can go on top of it with the yellow. To be honest, looking at it, I'm thinking, I really like the orange. The orange looks great. But I think the base is probably going to be a nice rusty orange, so I want to differentiate it a little bit. But it's close enough so that we're sticking to the golden 3-colour rule for the majority of the model. Okay, now onto the base. So I want to go for a Rhinox hide, nice brown colour. It's going to be a good base for my rust. At least it gives us a good close-up of the grey there when I'm blocking the shot. I'm not being too careful. I've got an old brush, just piling it on. You barely notice the typhus corrosion is going to be there, but it will help when you add the rusty pigments on later. Get a good coverage. And then when I'm happy with that, and if it's still wet, that's good. I'm going to mix that with the orange I've just used to apply on the Tau symbol. Really, really watery, and I'm just blotching it on. I want it to be irregular. I just want to build up the layers. The pigment's going to go on afterwards anyway, so it's not a big issue, but still, it just gives us that extra depth. So, as part of the base, I'm just going to stick on some of this Astronomicon medium, Astrogranite, or whatever it's called. It's good. It's good if you're in a tight squeeze. I like it, but like I say, I wouldn't necessarily do this on a whole army. But for this speed painting tutorial and to get a good finish, I'm just going to throw it on. It's a bit of a pain. I'm using some sculpting tools here that I've never used for anything else other than messing up bases. I'm not too worried about getting it onto the metalwork, because that's actually going to help build up the grit and the dirt look. So carefully getting the dark enamel wash, the streaking grime. So this is a green colour. This is the one I had. I got a brown one, which is a winter streaking grime, and this dark green one. Now, as I'm putting it on, I'm immediately regretting it, but I've used these before, and I'm pretty confident with them now. So I know that no matter what I do, I can always take it off again with the white spirit. So I'm going to commit, and at the end of the day, all I really need to get from this is a good coverage, and the ability to put the white spirit on where it will go into the recesses and create that depth and contrast of colour. As long as it's over the whole model and the model's all tied in together, it doesn't necessarily matter. It just gives it a greener, it'll just give it an undertone that you wouldn't necessarily notice. So generously applying this is going to help me, like it's not just the contrast, but actually helps your blends. As we apply the white spirits later, it will make those blends a lot smoother. So now the model's completely covered, I'm going in with the white spirits, and I'm just going to go for the areas that I want to be the cleanest first, because I'm probably going to need to do a couple of rounds, because as I put the white spirit on, my brush is going to become loaded up with the enamel wash, and it's going to be less capable of removing it. Just taking it off all the areas. It's not necessarily going to come off like this, you're just going to be moving it away into the recesses. So gravity is going to be doing a lot of the work, so I'm always moving it around and then trying to push the enamel wash where I want it to go. And straight away you can see it just loves going into all those annoying to paint square edges that I'm terrible with. And it actually doesn't create that many tide marks, so you get quite a smooth transition as long as you're just introducing the direction you want it to go. It does what you want it to do, which is great. Okay, I'm trying to keep my brush as clean as possible because this is my cleanup stage. So I'm trying to get rid of the wash where I really don't want too much of it. So again, I want to draw the eye towards the face, the chest piece, the top areas. So I want it to get gradually darker at the bottom, well, from dark to light. And the way part of that is going to be leaving more enamel wash at the bottom than compared to the top. Just trying to get rid of any tide marks. These will show up on the end model, so it's just a simple matter of just take them away with a white spirit. Now I'm just down to pure white spirit. Taking the excess off on my thumb. I probably shouldn't be doing that, but here we are anyway. Just clearing away the top edge. See that? Just real gentle. Just take away on the flat edges. Clean up where I want all the focus to be on the front panels and the top of the metallic barrels as well. I'd like those to stand out quite a bit. You can see at the end of the day, the green hasn't really ruined the look. Even if I'd gone for a brown or maybe a grey, dark grey colour, I might not have got the same effect. Or I may have got a better effect, but I'm actually really happy with the way the green looks. It gives it a real lived-in look. So once that's all dry, I'm now going in with pure grey. So before I was using grey, the grey base colour I used with a contrast paint, almost as a thinning medium. Now I want to do it with just the pure grey, and I'm coming in to get all the edges. Again, the goal of a highlight is to draw the eye's attention. It's the only reason you're doing it. Well, I should say you're also doing it to build the contrast as well. So no highlights at the bottom end unless I'm just trying to pick out where the light's touching the edges of the panels. I mean, it is a three-dimensional shape anyway, but this really helps. Using the edge of the paintbrush, just introducing it to the model, let the model do the work. I can go quite deep with this one because I think I'm going to mix in a bit of white with this later. So I'm thinking that as I'm applying the grey on, I'm thinking I need to go in with a lighter grey anyway because I want to build more contrast. So screw it, I'll just fill in this whole one here, and then when I go in with the white and grey, it'll give it that extra pop. Almost tempted to go near the bottom of the model there. Got to fight the temptation. Just stick to the top edges. I'm going to put it over the full front edge of that panel, so it looks like that edge is actually catching the whole thing, and it doesn't look terrible, which is a relief as I'm doing it. So now I want to do the same principle with the silver. So I'm going in with the lead belcher only, and I'm picking up all the top edges, leaving a little bit of an edge where the enamel wash was sitting. So I've removed most of the enamel wash, but it's still sitting there on the flat surfaces. So this is going to make those metals pop. Damn it, already screwed up there. You see, it's actually quite difficult to paint with the light in the way. That said, I've got sausage fingers at the best of times. Try and bring this back into shot here. Focus. Just trying to get in on the joints, not too much. There we go. So once I'm happy with the lead belcher and that's dried, I've added a little bit of lighter silver to the lead belcher. I'm just going to pick up the edges once more. So I'm going to just catch where the light's going to get the most extreme. So before I was being a bit more, I was covering say half of the semicircular edge of the barrel. Now I just want to pick out the very top. On the top of the magazine. if that's what that is. What you're doing here with the highlights is you're telling a picture, you're telling the person who's looking at it where the light's coming from. And for me, in my opinion, the best choice is from the direction that most people will look at the model. As less and less paint's on that paintbrush, you can see I'm almost just pushing it into the edges to dry brush it. Okay, quickly now onto the dirt and grime. I'm thinking about establishing it on the base of the model first. So if you've seen my Black Templar tutorial, in fact, and my Sisters of Battle tutorial, I use this extensively. I want to go dirtier on the bottom, and as you go further up the model, I'm going to use less and less. Now it might look harsh, but it's okay, it's the same as the enamel wash we used before. It can all come off again with the white spirit. So just be generous with it, especially in the recesses. And then when we come back in with the white spirit later, it'll transform it and you'll take away those harsh edges and harsh colours. I want to get some of the top flat edges. I'm a bit wary that if I'm putting it on the joints, it might look like rust. This is something I want to avoid. Again, because if it's a moving edge, it will actually be self-cleaning in a way. So while that's drying, I'm going to go and put in the, this is the rust pigment from AK Interactive. Oh, this might be a Vallejo one. They all tend to be the same, so you can just put them straight on and then use white spirit. And that'll almost turns it to a paint. So the pigment's actually like a powder, which when I first saw it just blew my mind. But you basically use the white spirit as a solvent that turns it into a liquid, and that allows you to paint it on like this. And just like the enamel washes, the more white spirit you put on, the thinner it is. And in fact, if you go pure white spirit, you take it off. So I'm just trying to encourage it into the recesses. And this dries a lot stronger than it looks when it's dry. It's the same with the dirt and grime. It comes out a really deep matte colour. Okay. Most people would edit out this blooper, but that's a reminder to be careful, because you can see it's stained the matte now. That's a pain to get out. So while I was waiting for that to dry, being very careful, I've got out the winter streaking grime, and I'm putting that all over the bottom of the base. And this is just going to dirty it all up. I don't have to worry about painting it. This makes it look fantastic afterwards. And once this is dry, I'll probably go in with the dirt and grime, so the whole model looks like it's part of the same scene.
Okay, so there we go. Here's the end product. You can see better images on Instagram if you want to have a bit more of a detailed look at it. But at the end of the day, this model took less than 1 hour to do, and it's good results. I think if you were batch painting these over a unit, you'd get a quicker result, because a lot of the time I'm applying the wash and I'm waiting for it to dry, or especially I'm taking it off with the white spirits, and the white spirits needs time to evaporate. So that's something to bear in mind. You could probably get a quicker batch paint, but isn't that always the way? So it's not one of the most detailed models I've done, but it's definitely tabletop ready. The base is everything here, I think, because it's quite a grey, drab model. I had to add some of the yellow in. I've given some of the orange to just lift it up. And it looks embedded in place because I've made sure I've used the weathering pigment on the base and then moved that up into the legs and on some of the flat areas where maybe there isn't a lot of use. Okay, so please comment. I like to see them. I like to read them. I like to see what you're saying. It helps me improve. And also like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, because it really helps me as an independent content provider, gets me up the algorithms where I can compete against the big boys and keeps me motivated. So thanks for watching, Hot Dice. See you next time.